I've flown hundreds of times before, but nothing could have prepared me for the terrifying descent from heaven to hell at 30,000 feet. What was supposed to be a routine flight turned into a fight for survival. In an instant, everything I thought I knew about flying was shattered, and I was about to learn just how quickly everything can change. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. I walked through the crowded terminal, my steps automatic, barely noticing the chaos around me. Airports had become second nature to me over the years. I've seen it all, the long lines, the rush, the delays. Today, though, this flight felt like just another routine journey. I pulled my book out of my bag as I passed through security. A red eye to LA, same as always. Get some rest, watch a few movies, maybe finish my book, simple. I boarded the plane, found my seat in the middle of the cabin, and settled in. The flight attendants were already moving through the aisles, smiling and greeting passengers, running through the safety procedures. Everything was calm. Everything was normal. Captain Dennis stood at the front of the cockpit. He looked the part, a seasoned pilot. His eyes scanned the cabin, giving orders to his crew with the confidence of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. "Everything's under control," he said to the attendants in a low, calm voice. I barely paid attention. The engines roared to life, and the plane began taxiing down the runway. I closed my eyes, ready for the familiar hum of the flight to lull me into sleep. We were up in the air now, cruising smoothly. The lights of the city below twinkled like tiny diamonds in the distance. I relaxed into my seat, watching the view, the world below so small, so far away. I should be enjoying this. I'm on my way to a much-needed break. Maybe a trip to the beach. Life's good. I took a sip of wine, feeling the soft buzz of relaxation creeping in. The cabin was calm, the flight attendants moving through, offering drinks, exchanging smiles. Everything was peaceful. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking," came Captain Dennis' smooth, reassuring voice over the intercom. "We've reached cruising altitude, and we're in for a smooth ride tonight. Sit back and enjoy the flight. We'll update you if anything changes." I let out a breath, sinking further into my seat. This was what flying should feel like, easy. But then, something caught my attention. The plane jolted, just for a second, but it was enough. A small tremor ran through the cabin. The overhead lights flickered. "It's nothing. Just a little turbulence. I've been through worse." I dismissed the slight unease building inside me. It wasn't anything to worry about. The plane lurched again, harder this time. I watched in disbelief as my glass of wine spilled all over the tray table. The fasten seatbelt sign flickered on, its bright light filling the cabin. The flight attendants were up and moving quickly. Jessica, one of the attendants, rushed down the aisle, securing loose items and urging passengers to buckle up. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats with your seatbelt fastened. We are experiencing some unexpected turbulence. We'll update you shortly." Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. The turbulence kept building, the plane shaking violently now. My pulse quickened as I gripped the armrests. The sound of anxious whispers filled the cabin, and I could feel the tension in the air. Something wasn't right. "It's just turbulence, Claire. Stay calm. They're trained for this." But even as I told myself this, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Then, from the back of the plane, I heard a loud metallic clang. My eyes darted to the flight attendants, and I saw them exchange looks that told me they were concerned, too. Then it happened. The plane jerked hard to the left, a terrifying mechanical noise echoing through the cabin. My stomach dropped, and before I could even react, the plane lurched downward with an intense force. The lights flickered once more and then went out, leaving the cabin in eerie darkness. Oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling with a soft hiss. Panic exploded around me. People screamed. The sound of terror filled the air. "Everyone, brace. Brace for impact," came Jessica's panicked voice over the PA. I couldn't breathe. I grabbed the oxygen mask, hands shaking, but my thoughts were scattered, too jumbled to process what was happening. My body was pressed against the seat as the plane continued its rapid descent. What is happening? Why is this happening? It's too much. Too much. Through the chaos, I could hear Captain Dennis' voice cutting through the static. This is your captain. We are experiencing a major malfunction. Please remain in your seats. We are attempting to regain control. But it didn't feel like control was possible. The plane was plummeting, and all I could do was hold on. Suddenly, the freefall stopped. The plane leveled out, but it wasn't stable. It continued to shake violently. The alarm stopped, but the tension remained. The cabin was filled with heavy breathing, whispers, and the occasional sob. I turned to the young man sitting beside me. His face was pale, his hand gripping my arm with a desperate intensity. Are we going to be okay? His voice was shaky, panic in his eyes. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest, but I forced myself to speak calmly. We don't know yet. But we need to stay calm. Panicking won't help. Just breathe. Jessica, the flight attendant, approached us, trying to offer some reassurance despite the fear in her own eyes. We've lost power in one of the engines, she said, her voice strained but steady. But we're doing everything we can to regain control. Please, stay calm. I looked around, seeing people praying, crying, some holding hands. The atmosphere was charged with fear. There was nothing we could do but wait. At the front of the plane, Captain Dennis and his crew were working desperately to keep the plane in the air. I could hear his voice on the PA again, barely audible over the shaking. We're doing everything we can. Please remain seated and stay calm. Subscribe now to keep enjoying the content. The descent was slow at first, but it didn't feel right. The angle was steep, the world outside growing darker. The sputtering of the engines filled the cabin, and I couldn't help but feel like we were too far gone. Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica's voice came over the PA, please prepare for an emergency landing. We are making our way toward the nearest airport. Please remain calm and keep your seatbelt fastened. I looked around at the other passengers. Everyone was so still, some holding their breath, others whispering. I tried to focus, tried to find some sense of calm, but my heart was racing, my breath shallow. This is real. We might not make it. We might not make it. But I have to believe we will. The plane hit the runway with a sickening thud, throwing me forward, but the seatbelt held me tight. The screech of the plane against the tarmac was deafening as we skidded to a stop. For a few moments, everything was still. We're alive. We're alive. Thank God, we're alive. The emergency crews rushed in, guiding us off the plane as quickly as possible. I stumbled out into the cold night air, my legs shaking, my mind still struggling to process what had just happened. I stood at a distance, watching the emergency crews work around the wreckage of the plane. My legs were weak, my mind still foggy from the adrenaline. I couldn't quite wrap my head around what had just happened, but I knew one thing for sure, I'd never look at flying the same way again. It was the worst thing that's ever happened to me, but somehow, I made it. We all did. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to help our channel grow.